All right, we're here for another episode of the Waterford FC official podcast, and I'm delighted to say something that, I'll be honest, I didn't think I was going to say at the start of the season, but joining me on this week's podcast is Jordan Rossiter.
Yeah,
Jordan, how are you?
Yeah, no, good. It's good to be here. Looking forward to a little chat.
Yeah, as I said, look, there's never much pressure in these. It's just a chat. It's a way for the fans and the supporters and everyone to get to know everyone a little bit more and more personally. You know, how have you found your time here so far? You're not here that long, but
Yeah, no, so I've been here, middle of July, so what's that, about coming up to 2 months?
Yeah.
2 months now, yeah, so, no, really enjoyed it, probably surprised a little bit, to be honest with you. Obviously, I knew the club was, a really good setup, obviously speaking to Danny, who obviously I'm close to anyway, and obviously the gaffer, but no, it surprised me how good of a setup it is, and I think it's a club that's got real ambition, and I think over the next few years it is going places.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's... as the commercial manager as well as supporter of the club, that's kind of the big conversation that I've been having at the moment. We're looking towards 2026 now.
Yeah.
And it's not just me saying it, it's our potential sponsors and our returning sponsors that are saying to me, we see the potential that's there. But it is really great to hear from the lads like yourself who come cross-channel. And I think I'm always very interested to hear what the thoughts are before you get here compared to what it is,
Yeah, I think, well, to be honest with you, if I'm being really honest, I probably knew a lot more than what other people do, just because I do know a few people who've obviously played in the League of Ireland. Obviously, I know Danny well, who's obviously, played for, he was at Sligo. The gaffer's obviously managed Sligo. So I do know little bits and bobs, but, it surprised me how good the quality of the actual league is, to be honest with you. I think all the players are, really good technically. Every game's been a different challenge. And yeah, to be honest with you, the standards probably not surprised me because I knew it was going to be good anyway, but it's just a lot more technical than what maybe the leagues in England are. I think the lower leagues will have played in the likes of, most of my career I've spent in League One, League Two, a little bit in the National League. It's a lot more physical, long balls, that type of game where I think over here, a lot more passing and technical players can obviously show what they can do. So that surprised me, to be honest with you.
That's a really interesting insight as well that we wouldn't usually get.
Yeah.
It's usually spoke about in generalizations, or the league is good, but actually hearing that, because one thing I do hear from players I speak to, again, that come from cross-channel, even Irish players coming back, it is I wouldn't say the aggression, but definitely the hard kind of style that there is lower down in the divisions in England.
Yeah, no, I think that's what it is. I think, some games you turn up to certain stadiums, or you play certain teams and, the ball's just going to be over your head every single minute of the game. You're fighting for second balls, which, by the way, I think over here you've got to do as well. That they are just the basics of football, but I do think a lot more teams out here, try and play football, and, I'm one of them type of people, don't get me wrong, I like the dirty side of the game, but, and, the basics and, putting your tackles in, but I also do like getting on the ball and trying to play, which, I've enjoyed, obviously, the Gaffer and Danny style, how they try and they want the team to play. So no, I'm enjoying it.
And then the other thing is, I suppose, look, we can talk about Waterford and the potential that we have here and all that, but I think it's fairly certain to say that the league itself has really come on leaps and bounds. I mean, you look at what some of the other clubs are doing in Europe. We've got 2 teams in group stages of European competition this year. The league, if you look, I won't even say 10 years, if you look 5 years ago, this was almost unthinkable.
Yeah, no, unbelievable. Obviously, it's Shamrock and who's the other?
Shells.
Shells have obviously got into Europe, which, if I'm being honest, I think that helps the whole league. It's just not one team, it's 2 teams making it, and I think there was another few teams, weren't they, obviously, in the qualification spot. So, but then that's the good thing about it, and the beauty of being here in the Irish League, that, you can have a bit of a European journey if you have a good season, and there's no reason why this football club can't do that over the next few years.
And that's it. That's got to be the aim, hasn't it? Like when you look at you mentioned yourself, like you knew about the league already, but you're still surprised when you come here. The facilities out in the arena, in the RSE itself. I mean, it's top class.
No, the facilities shocked me. Obviously spoke to Danny before I come, and he said it's really good facilities. But then when you turn up, it's top facilities. And if I'm being honest, apart from maybe the 1 or 2 clubs have been at. But most of the lower league clubs in England who've played for, the facilities here are far better than what they have there. So I think that's a real, what's the word? People can come here and know that everything's there for them. Do you know what I mean? There's no way. When you turn up to this football club, there's literally no excuses to perform because everything's there for you. The facilities, the pitches, the food. So then it's up to the players themselves then.
Yeah, no, I like that, I have to say. So I was going to leave it a little bit later in the interview, but you've mentioned a couple of times your relationship with Danny and the gaffer. But what is obviously you're all from Liverpool, but how far do yourself and Danny go back?
No, so me and Danny are basically, we kind of know, we don't know each other, but we're kind of from the same neck of the woods in Liverpool, and my dad and his dad kind of, knew a little bit of each other, and then obviously Danny was my assistant manager at Bristol Rovers, so that's where I kind of got close to him, and then, to be fair, the gaffer, I never actually met the gaffer until I come here. Obviously played against his Accrington teams, and we always used to have, really good battles against them over the years, so I knew what his teams were always about, and that's kind of the reason why, I wanted to come play for them.
Yeah, no, it's great. And not to keep kind of harping on about the league and us growing and stuff like that, but it's when you see players like yourself coming over, joining the league and kind of giving that stamp of approval to the facilities and stuff like that, that shows, the growth in the league and what's to come as well, really, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I can't obviously comment for a lot of the teams in the league, but I can only comment for the Waterford. But no, it's been brilliant. Even the pitches at the RSC, it's... there's not a bobble on there, do you know what I mean? You come off the pitch and you're not even muddy, that's how actually good the pitch is. So, yeah, no, I'm just looking forward to the final few games of the season and finishing strong now.
So you mentioned yourself and Danny are from the same area in Liverpool. I've spent a hell of a lot of time in my life in Liverpool since I was 4 or 5 years of age, so I know Liverpool quite well myself. But what I know about Liverpool as well is the football culture that's built into the city is incredible. It's raucous. Not just the red and blue split, when you even take in the Wolves across the river. You're talking about, I knew you'd like that.
Go easy on all that.
Yeah,
don't want to get involved in
no,
all that.
we don't know. But listen, but you're out in Tranmere Rovers as well, and and even further afield as well. But what's it like to grow up as a young boy in that, but also a young boy who's already kind of from a young age on the path to that being their career?
Yeah, no, obviously, well, I think if you're speaking about football, obviously, in Liverpool, you've obviously got, the likes of Liverpool, Everton, and you've got the likes of Tranmere Rovers, who are just across the water, but then in Liverpool, you've got a massive amateur scene, the Saturday football, the Sunday football, it's massive. You grow up watching it, you go to your Sundays, you go and watch your dad play Sunday League football. I'm sure Danny was the same, it's massive, so that's kind of the culture what you create. So from a young age, you're only ever involved in football. Funny enough, I used to manage an amateur team the last 2 seasons back in Liverpool, who Danny used to play for another team, so it was funny. But no, that's just what you grow up knowing. Football, it's nothing else. I think it's either football or boxing, and thankfully, I managed on the right path, and it didn't get me punched in, and obviously ended up being a footballer, which obviously I'm thankful for.
But this is it. I think it was when I was speaking to Finn on the podcast as well. We were talking about that exact thing, and he did say it's either football or boxing. He said the exact same thing, because obviously you have the Smith brothers as well, all of them,
of course,
professional boxers. But then there's the music side of Liverpool as well. So I think if you're sporting at all, it's either the two of them or you're going to be artistic and go into music. But was it always football then? Was there ever boxing or anything else involved for you?
No, I say obviously from that area, to be fair, where obviously the Smith brothers obviously grew up and things like that, so the boxing's always there. But no, for me, it was always football. Do you know what I mean? My dad was a massive football fan. My dad was a massive Everton fan, so which meant I was an Everton fan. So I just grew up. My granddad managed a team called Bootle, obviously years ago. We were obviously kind of on the brink amateur football and going into semi-professional. So it was always football for me.
My dad's best friend in his early 20s and into his 30s was from Birkenhead, and we would almost consider his family my adopted cousins over there. So that's how I have the connection to all that kind of lingo and stuff like that, and they're all Tranmere people. But
Tranmere a massive club, you forget the massive. Even when I was growing up, I was into a championship high in League One, and I've played there a few times, and the 10,000, if they're doing well, you're getting 10,000 plus fans, which is obviously unbelievable for a League Two club. Yeah, and
that's the thing about when I say Liverpool in the city, and there is obviously a fracture there. You're either one or the other.
Yeah.
But the football heritage within the city is incredible. So when does it look like, I suppose, how young are you? Because I'm always fascinated with this when I'm speaking to lads on the podcast. How young are you when you start going, right, I'm going to sign for either Everton or Liverpool or whoever it's going to be?
Yeah, well, to be fair, it was a little bit younger, obviously, than probably most for me. So I was only 5. I think we went to a bit of a soccer school with me primary school, what I went to, and I think I must have just impressed a few academy coaches at Liverpool who was there, and then so that's when I very first started, obviously going up from the age of 5 to the Liverpool training at like the pre-academy, and then obviously I think you sign fully when you're 8, and then from the age of 8 you're literally 4 times a week, 5 times a week. That's just you then going up to the academy training, playing games.
And one of the big narratives you always hear through Sky Sports and all the banter era, if you like, is, and I'll take Jamie Carragher as an example. Oh, well, he grew up a blue and he's a red, and what is he really? But what I always wonder is, when you're 5, when you're, let's say even 8, your dad's a massive blue.
Yeah.
Does that ever come into it? Because the potential is there.
In terms of
he's signing for Liverpool.
No, I don't think. I think you've got to be a real type of bitter person if you're getting involved in all that type of stuff. For me, my dad, I obviously went to Everton Academy as well, but my dad kind of left it up to me. Even at that young age, he was like, whichever one you're enjoying more, then that's what I was going to go to. And at the time, it was Liverpool what I was enjoying more. So that's just the kind of reason why I stayed at Liverpool.
Yeah. And like, there's even players that we both know who are Reds, and maybe their brothers are a blue. So it happens the other way around as well. I was just using that as an example. But at 8 years of age, like you mentioned, you got seen, I suppose, at 5. So you literally have never really known anything but football.
No, literally never ever knew anything but football. And I think that's obviously a scary thing, because I think in life, obviously, a different turn or anything like that, I mightn't have been playing football, but that's just what you grew up knowing, football. But I think what was always good, obviously, with my family as well, that they kind of left it up to me as well. They would never push you with it, anything like that. If I didn't want to go to football one day, they wouldn't ever make me. And I think that's why I've kind of, obviously stuck to it, you know what I mean? And I think these days, especially probably back in England now, it's like everybody's trying to get the kids to be in an academy or to be at this team, to be at that team. And I think the beauty of it back then, I was lucky that it was just football for enjoyment, where nowadays, obviously Instagram, Twitter, it's always the next big kid, or he's meant to be good, or he's meant to be good, and it's never good. You just got to have no pressure, just go and enjoy your football, and whatever happens.
I hear the lads around me when I go over to the game across channel. I hear all the lads around me talking like that. My young fella's doing this, my girl is doing that. I know exactly.
Because obviously the pride
of course,
obviously the kids, and
of course
they want the kids to do well. Do you know what I mean? But sometimes I do certain things, and I'm just like, just let the kids enjoy the football, or I go and watch my nephews, my little cousins play, and my nephews, when they do start playing, they're only 4 at the minute, and we get the people on the sideline, the dads or the mums, which are a little bit too, and I'm just like, just let them enjoy it, and whatever will be, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I read something about you when you were, I think you're probably still a teenager.
Yeah.
That you used to wear an Everton tracksuit going to Liverpool training.
Is
that true?
So what it was, I was young, I wasn't a teenager, so I think the manager at the time was Carl Robinson, who's obviously went on to have a good managerial career over in England, and what it was not, so basically in the pre-academy, you never had training kit, so it was just kind of whatever kit you wanted to wear, you go in type of thing, and it was always, I used to put an Everton kit on to go into Liverpool training, which obviously they still laugh about it now, but no, it was that's what that story was.
Well, it's definitely a legend that follows you around, because I did read that a long time ago. But it is a great story, in fairness.
Yeah.
But that experience coming up through the Liverpool Academy, I mean, that's something I suppose I could only imagine that not only forms you as a footballer, but as a human being as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. As I say, loved every minute of it. The football ground, and I got from a young age was, absolutely, I couldn't thank all the coaches and everybody more, because they put a lot, the coaches from when you're 9 to 16, they're there of a night every day, trying to make you a better player, trying to make you a better person. And obviously even my dad, worked 9 till 5, and then once 5 o'clock finishes, he was shooting me up to Kirby, which was about half an hour away from where I live, to train, and he was there for 2 or 3 hours every night. So, without people like that, you never ever get the chance to obviously, become a professional footballer. But no, loved every minute, and picked up some great experiences over the years. And
something then that you were just talking about before that was just let the kids enjoy their football. There was a lot of talk around you as a kid. A lot of I think I read something before, and I could be wrong. I think it was Robbie Fowler said this lad is the next Steven Gerrard.
Yeah, so I think I come on in, I was only 15, and I got put up to, I think it was the under-21s for a Champions League game, and I've come on, and obviously I think obviously Robbie Fowler's put like a tweet out, because obviously he was coaching with us at the time, so he kind of knew me, and obviously seen me training, and he's literally just said, obviously just probably a bit of a throwaway tweet that, obviously I'm going to be the next Steven Gerrard, which obviously, you know, that obviously Bill, he hasn't meant to do that, but I wouldn't, there was probably a little bit of pressure what people maybe thought, but I would never got carried away with things like that, because, you know, my family would never let it. I'm not the type of person to ever get carried away with it, do you know what I mean? It was just for a legend like that, obviously he gets called God in Liverpool, doesn't he? So for a legend like that and a person like that to say that, then, you know, I was just delighted that he recognised, you know, that I did have certain qualities.
Right. So that was going to be my question. Like, did you take it as a compliment, or does that start going in your head, going, right, I am this, or does it start going, oh my God, now I have to become?
Yeah, no, I took it literally just, it was just a compliment of, you know, obviously a legend and a footballer like that. So for someone to say that, I was just delighted. I think he was just more saying, you know, I've got the qualities to maybe, you know, maybe the grit or determination than actually to be like that. But a funny story, I always remember, so he put that tweet out, and then a few weeks later I was training with the Liverpool first team, and it was the international break, so they needed kind of the younger squad or the reserves or under 18s to train with them. And I always remember having a shot, blamed it over the bar. I always remember Carragher saying, fucking, what did he say again? Jamie Carragher shouted, next Steven Gerrard, my ass. And that always just stuck with me, and I thought, yeah, that's always going to stick with me, the next Steven Gerrard, but no one ever let it get ahead of me.
Yeah, because I think at the time, a lot, not just Robbie Fowler, but a lot of the Liverpool managers, Gerard Houllier in particular, had a negative knack, shall we say, of putting tags like that on players. Anthony Litalik was the next Zinedine Zidane and stuff like that. So there was form for that at Liverpool at the time, I think.
I think it's just any younger lad who's doing well, you know, obviously they're always going to get tagged with the next this or the next that. That just comes with obviously social media. And well, I think that was kind of the beginning of social media. Twitter was just about to come around 10, 12 years ago. So I think that's all it was, really.
And what's it like then? You mentioned in teams like that, you get the reserves or the under 18s or whatever step up to train with the senior squad when the internationals are gone away. How valuable of a learning experience of a footballer is that?
Just seeing how they work. I just used to try and be a sponge every single day. Just used to see how they do things, how they train, and, you know, just the intensity they train at every day. You know, they're fully switched on from the moment they get on that training pitch, and it's just little lessons. I just try to pick up little snippets where I could, and I've probably still do a lot of them habits today.
One of the things you said then about your dad or your family in general, just not letting you get away with that, about Fowler, just a quick story about that. Like, Fowler himself was surely like that, I think, because when I used to go over with my dad when I was only 6, 7, 8, Robbie Fowler would go to the pub after the game and drink a pint with his dad, literally outside the ground in the Stanley. So, like, that's obviously something that maybe it's a Scouse thing or something, I don't know, but there's definitely seems to be, it's like Ireland, I think. The people around you won't let you get too big.
No, of course. I say, as soon as you start getting an head of yourself, you know, your mates are giving you stick, or your dad's giving you stick, or, you know, you're never going to be able to get away with it. Do you know what I mean? And I was never one of them types of people who did let myself get carried away. So no, thankfully I've always stayed grounded in that respect. Because football can change, you know, very quickly, and it can be as good and a rewarding sport it is. Obviously, there's the other side of it as well. So that's why you can never get like that.
And just while we're on the subject of training with a first team like that, would have been around the time that you were around the first team and all that Luis Suarez would have been there.
Yeah.
And we're so inundated with TikToks and short clips and audio. But one of the things I always hear is people talking about him in training and just treating it like it's the Champions League final. Is that true?
He was just literally, so just 100 miles an hour every single day. Like, it was a match, and I think that's why they are that good, because every single day they train like it's a match, and it's no coincidence that they train like that through the week, and, you know, they perform in front of 50,000-60,000 people on Saturday.
Well, look, even as a young boyhood Blue, and still a Blue now, you have a place in Liverpool history. You at one stage were the second youngest scorer, and you still are in the top 5 youngest scorers. What's something like that like? It's
don't want to sound modest or nothing, but, you know, football moves on quickly. Like, at the time, it was an unbelievable experience. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, to get my debut and to score within 10 minutes, you know.
Against Borough, wasn't it?
Against Middlesbrough, in the Carabao Cup. It was.
I remember it.
Yeah, it's what dreams are made of. But, you know, at the end of the day, like, as you said there, it's history. You know, everything's forward. You never like to look back. Don't get me wrong. Probably when I do retire, it'll sink in. But you know, football every week. You know, you're after that next win, aren't you? And
because when you signed, I had heard a rumour that it was possible, and I got excited. I'm a Liverpool fan my whole life, and I got very excited because I had followed your career. I remember the night you scored against Middlesbrough. I followed you after you left and everything. And I think it's nice to be humble, of course. But like when you signed, someone sent me a screenshot, and it was like top 5 youngest scorers in Liverpool history, and your name is on it. Like that's a big deal.
Yeah, of course. But it only probably sinks in when you're having these conversations and you say things like that. Obviously, it was a proud moment for me and my family, and obviously my girlfriends at the time, for everyone really. It was an unbelievable experience, and one day when I do retire, I'll be having a pint in the pub with my dad, and we'll look back on it, and he'd probably wish it was for Everton, but
that's okay
that's
as well.
All right as well. But no, it was
it was
an unbelievable experience.
Yeah, look, before we move on to the next stage in your career, I think it would be remiss of me. You played with what ended up being not just two great Liverpool captains, but two of the great captains in English football history at the same time. You played in the same squad as them, which is Stephen Gerrard and Jordan Henderson. Yeah. Well, was there and the same position, by the way?
Yeah.
So is there wisdom being imparted, or is it almost like, well, here's a new guy coming up that might take my place?
Yeah, I think to be fair, obviously Stevie was obviously coming to the end of his career then, obviously when I was kind of coming into the Liverpool changing room. So, it just, the way he is and the way he was just unbelievable. Do you know what I mean? I think he had that thing about him that, you just wanted to be around him, and you wanted to be learning off of him. You're seeing how good he was in training every day, and obviously he's just probably Liverpool's best ever player. Do you know what I mean? And then obviously Henderson comes in, and obviously he takes the captaincy off him, and obviously not off him, but I mean it gets passed to him. And I'd spent probably a good bulk of time with obviously Jordan Henderson in the Liverpool first team changes, and the likes of him and James Milner. They were the two who I really tried to mirror most days, and create habits like them, and they still stick with me to this day.
Well, James Milner is someone who barely could kick a football, but would look at it and admire. I mean, he's not. I mean, I'm 40 now, which I can't believe, by the way. But thank you, I appreciate that. But he's almost the same age as me.
Yeah.
And I look at him, and he's just ripped. He's probably more muscular than he's ever been, scoring goals in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Like, that must be someone you can learn from, and like all the clubs he's played for as well, from 16 to now.
That's just dedication. He's just literally dedicated his whole life to obviously his craft, and obviously I think I played in that would have been 9 years ago, and it's no surprise that he's still playing now, because whatever, how he looks after his body and how he trains every day and things like that. So there's no surprise he's still doing it at the top level.
I love that. But you went from one, I suppose, major football in City to another. You went to Glasgow.
Yeah.
I don't think it's too far wrong to say that the split in Glasgow is worse than it is if maybe worse is the wrong word, but I don't think it is, to be fair. It's the Liverpool derby used to be the friendly derby.
Well, I think the Liverpool derby, probably that's the difference. Obviously, it probably still is a little bit friendly, to be fair, that what I've seen like the last few years. Obviously, because Liverpool have obviously been doing that well, and Everton because since I've been growing up, Liverpool and Everton, Liverpool have always been better, won Champions Leagues, and obviously, but Everton were always on the cusp of Europe.
Of course they were,
Davy Moyes, 7th, 8th, 9th every season, but probably like the last 5, 6, 7 years, Liverpool have been like it's probably the best for the last 6 or 7 years, probably been the best team in Europe, or probably the world, and Everton have kind of just been on the cusp of relegation, so it's got a little bit more bitter and a little bit more feisty, probably more Everton fans these last few years. But the Glasgow, and obviously the Glasgow rivalry is just it's a
does it compare at all?
No, it doesn't. Like when you're actually in that environment, like it's Liverpool and Everton, it's just nothing.
I've never been to an Old Firm derby. I would like to experience, I think.
Yeah.
But I remember I've been to a good few Merseyside derbies, but I was at the one where Nicky Barmby crossed over that summer, I think it was, and he scored.
Yeah.
And it was Gaza was still playing for Everton. This is probably 2001.
Like 2001.
Yeah, so it was still quite friendly.
Yeah.
And I remember afterwards, the Everton fans were chanting, Nicky Barmby, we know where you live.
Yeah.
But it was in a jokey way. It wasn't.
Of course, yeah.
But I think, to your point, it's definitely shaped a bit differently now. But can you compare it at all to that Old Firm?
For me, the Old Firm is just, it's a whole different ball game, like the intensity, even like the week leading up to it, like you can just feel something in the air before. Obviously, and I only ever was on the bench in them games, but the people who were playing, they can probably tell you more that it's just a different feel from that Monday. You're playing the Sunday or the Saturday, and it's just an all different. It's hard to explain. Just the intensity.
And it's 4 times a year as well.
It's
by the way.
4 times a year, yeah. And obviously, early on, obviously in the season, you know, it's who kind of, you know, breaks first type of thing. So they're the big ones, and then as the season goes on, they just become bigger and bigger, and then you get the cup finals or the semi-finals. No, they're massive.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic that I don't think any of us outsiders will ever really understand.
No, as I say, even me, like going up there, I knew it was obviously a big rivalry, but you never know, and you never know how much it actually, you know, means to them. You know, and even like the Rangers fans, obviously I still see, say if I'm on holiday or I think it was in Ibiza in the summer, and you know, you get a Rangers fan coming up to you, so it's just the intensity of the football up there. It's unmatched in England.
I have a couple of mates. I spent a couple of summers in Appa, and I met a lot of good Scottish lads from Glasgow, from both sides of it, and I get it. I get it. Is that where you met Joey Barton for the first time?
Yeah, so that's where I first played with Joey Barton. Was so me and him signed kind of in the same window. So we were both going up there to obviously play midfield together. So that was July 2016. That would have been so that was the first time I met him. Yeah.
So I know you played under him at Fleetwood. Is that right?
Played under him at Fleetwood, and then he also brought me to Bristol Rovers as well.
Yeah. So, but the first, like, I've never properly met him, but there was a rumour in Waterford that he was here playing golf.
Okay.
And I went in to get a bag of chips or
he
a
loves
pizza.
his golf, like, he loves his golf,
I went in to get a pizza in town one night when the rumour was on, and I was coming, I suppose, the main cross in town, or the strip, as some people like to call it. But here was Joey Barton standing there, right? Yeah. What struck me from the car was the size of him. Yeah. He's a big unit.
He's say, even when he was playing, obviously he was strong, physical.
And he was just retiring at this point. This is years ago, 10 years ago maybe. So probably not retired.
So he's say, obviously I played with him, so I knew what he was like, obviously, like as a player, but you know, I've learned so much off, obviously, Joey Barton, like I've got a lot of praise for him.
So I think, I've heard a few things from people who have known him, and he feels a bit misunderstood from what his reputation is.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people are like that, obviously. I think this day and age, especially with like social media, and you know, people sometimes are too quick to judge, if that makes sense. But I can only speak from how he was with me and what I've learned from him. And I'll always say that, you know, he was a real good influence on my career.
Yeah, no, he strikes me as the kind of guy who's likes being a provocateur. He likes saying things that's going to get a reaction.
Yeah, well, obviously, that's probably that's him, do you know what I mean?
But to your point, you played under him at Rangers, you came in the same window, so there's a little bond probably from the off. Both Scousers,
of course,
both Blues.
Respect his career, because he's played 15 years in the Premier League, do you know what I mean? England's international, got the cap and all that, so he was someone who was really looking forward to playing with. Obviously, during the season, didn't kind of work out the way I was hoping for, but then as a manager, I've learned so much under him, and I think he definitely made me a better player, because obviously Fleetwood was kind of, went to Berry, obviously, in League Two, but Fleetwood was kind of my first proper stint in men's football in England in League One, and I learned so much.
So talk to us about that move then. That's what I was getting to with Joey. It's obviously, you have a lot in common, even joining during the transfer window is something you have in common. But you obviously must have stayed in touch or somewhat, because he fancied bringing you to Fleetwood when he got the chance to. Yeah,
so we had, I think what it was, obviously, my agent at the time, Bradley Orr, football agent, he played with Joey at Fleetwood, so it was always going to be in the pipeline. Like as soon I knew when Fleetwood come in, type of thing, I was always going to them.
Not 100 miles away from home either.
Exactly, yeah. So that was probably my first chance I could get to live back at home. Obviously, being up in Scotland, Glasgow for 3 or 4 years, so it was literally an hour commute, and we had to go little car school full of Scousers. So that was my first chance to really go and, you know, take my teeth into the men's football in England, and I loved every minute.
And how did you find then the difference from, you know, the flirtations and you made a lot of appearances for Liverpool, you scored a goal in the Carabao Cup final, you know, you're making the bench for the Champions League, you know, playing under Brendan Rodgers, the whole lot, like, and we're there when Klopp came in and everything, you know, up to Rangers, but you're still saying like that's your first real foray into men's football?
Yeah, I think that was the more, in terms of like, you know, obviously at the likes of Liverpool and Rangers, obviously, you know, I was open to play more at Rangers, that's why I went up there, but the injuries obviously happens, and that's a side of football where sometimes you can't stop. But you know, Fleetwood, I was there every week, starting every Saturday, every Tuesday, playing full games, you know, the intensity of it, you know, so that was me fair. To be fair, I went to Berry the January before, then got promoted at League Two, and that was probably my first full stint in men's football, which I loved. And then from obviously the pre-season, I went to Fleetwood, and yeah, no, I loved it.
Of course, not to take away from Bury at all,
No,
but you
of
went
course,
there in
yeah.
January
I went
and you only spent like half the season, but this was your first
this
full...
was my first full season,
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Just talk about like injuries as well, like how... I don't think we can fully understand. We just see, say, Jordan Rossiter, INJ. We kind of go, he's not available.
Yeah.
But how draining mentally is it?
I think it's obviously tough because, you know, growing up, obviously, you know, from the age of like 9 to 16, 17, I literally had no injuries. Never missed a game, whether that was for, you know, Liverpool Academy or, you know, my primary school team or my secondary school team, my high school team. So, and then obviously injuries start to happen, which sometimes can happen in a young footballer, you know, coming into men's football and things like that. And then, yeah, as I say, injury, it's a part of football, and, you know, sometimes luck does come into it because, you know, I like to think that I'm the type of person who, you know, tries to stay professional and do all the right things. You know, I think people who know me will probably, you know, back me up on that. And then yeah, injuries happen. Obviously, I done my ACL at Fleetwood, which, you know, it can happen to anyone. Went into a tackle, ACL, you know, for a year during COVID. That happens, and then I've probably been a bit unlucky. Like muscle injuries, touch wood. Never had a problem with any of that type of thing. And then obviously I get to Bristol Rovers, do a small, well, this is the kind of my main bulk of the career what I spent out. So I had a meniscus tear, which, well, I literally spoke to the surgeon. He said, listen, you're going to be out for 6 weeks. So I said to him, that's fine. 6 weeks, so this was in the December till January. Danny was there at the time, and then during that operation, I got an infection, and then that's where I kind of got sepsis after I got the infection from that surgery. So I woke up thinking I'm going to be out for 6 weeks, you know, which is nothing. That's a hamstring injury or a calf injury after an operation. And obviously you wake up from the operation, not well, sick, ill, for a good week or so, and then knees massive, can't walk. And then it was my mum. My mum said to me, you need to tell him, something's not right, you know what I mean? And then obviously go down, back to Bristol Rovers, do the tests and all that, and then, you know, next thing you know, I'm getting rushed to the hospital to, you know, clear out the knee on a drip for a few weeks. And that was probably the main bulk of my career, what I spent out, and it was probably about 16 months, which was tough.
And was it a staph infection? Or
I'll be lying if I said I knew what the actual thing was, but basically it's just a blood infection I picked up during the operation, which obviously, you know, that is the unlucky part of my career, where I think, you know, if that never happened, you know, things could have been different, but it's football, isn't it? That's life, you know, there's always someone worse off than you, and unfortunately for me, I just had to deal with that. That was a time in my life that was tough, but, you know, thankfully I'm still playing football now and I've come through the other side of it.
Absolutely, thankfully for us as well. So how does that call come through then to come over here?
So the call, basically, so it was in the summer, I was actually visiting a mate so obviously I finished up with, I was at Shrewsbury last year, then I went on loan to Oldham. And then basically I was in the summer, off season, I think it was about end of June, I was out in America visiting a friend.
Lovely.
And then Danny messaged me, says, fancy, can you get yourself back for it was a bit of a joke he left, can you fancy getting back for the derby on Friday against Cork? And then obviously he rang me after then, he was just like, do you fancy it? And I said, yeah, sounds good to me, type of thing. So 2 days later I was on the next flight home, and then yeah, obviously I couldn't make it in time for the Cork game, but then obviously I joined for the it was the St Moctus game in the FAA Cup a week later.
It's brilliant stuff. So look, we'll start winding down. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but the season, I don't want to say it's on a knife edge, but you know, it's not gone the way everyone wanted it the last few weeks. But as we record this, there's still a lot of games left. So, you know, is the talk now, let's salvage what we can from the season?
Yeah, 100%. But I think say if we had this conversation 3 weeks ago, we were looking maybe Europe and, you know, really pushing on to, you know, them top 3 or 4 spots. And I think that's football, you know, things can change quickly, and, you know, we go and pick up a few results. You know, you never know where it could lead you, but I think obviously it was a bit frustrating going out the cup the way we did. Obviously the lads were disappointed and probably let ourselves down there, but, you know, listen, there's still a lot of football to be played, and it's just trying to finish the season strong and finish as high as we can. Absolutely,
yeah. Like I think you're right to your point. If we spoke about this 3 weeks ago, you know, we were saying we could still push Europe, but now and that's the beauty of the Irish League and the pain of it as well.
Of course,
But the flip side of it is, I spoke to one of the lads the other day, and he said, well, you know, we have almost a full round of fixtures left to play.
Yeah, of course. I think think in football, I always say you never get too high and you never get too low. And I feel like, obviously, the way the Irish League is, obviously, you win a few, you think, oh, we can make Europe, we lose a few. It's like, oh, could be getting dragged into a bit of a scrap here, but no, there's loads of games still to play. I think 6 of our last 7 games are against the teams above us, which obviously I think suits the way we are and the way we play a lot better. So, I'm just looking forward to the last few, the running. It's always the best time of the season. The business ends, isn't it? The business ends the season.
When it gets a bit scrappy. Jordan, thank you so much.
No, appreciate it.